Hey friends, it's Heather. I have another layout to share with you for my creative scrapbook. I know it has been quite some time, but last month I was so super busy and I just couldn't find the time to record and edit. So I apologize. I've been MIA for a while, and I do have to share with you that unfortunately this month will be the last month that I will be designing for my creative scrapbook. My term was for a year, and I decided to step down just to work on some other things. So, so there it is. Let's get started. So I am going through the pattern papers, and the kit, it is filled with simple stories and their signature sort of style. There's I found this year we've done a lot of collections from Simple Stories, and I've noticed the sort of embellishments are the same. Obviously, it's different colors and icons. So I'm wondering next year if they'll switch things up a little bit. But there were also some really pretty papers mixed in from Heidi Swap's new Christmas collection. And if you'd like to know the details on each pattern paper included, make sure you head over to my creative scrapbook and check out all the details. So what I am starting with is a picture of my oldest. She sent out her first Christmas card last year. It was super cute. It was a photo of her and her kitties in front of her tree, and it just looked super sweet. So I wanted to scrap that. And since she had a tree in the background, and I love all the patterns that came in this kit, like the plaids, and just it looks super traditional and it matched the photo. So I cut out 3 triangles, if you will, for my trees just out of copy paper. And I am cutting some squares for the first tree and some strips for the second tree, and I am just going to collage them together on my little triangle trees. I started out with a piece of wood grain pattern paper from the kit, and I don't make you watch me cut all of the strips of paper because it's a little boring, but I am going through some of them, figuring out which patterns I wanted to use. And some of them have scenes on them, I guess you could say. So I am just trying to get a good mix of color and pattern. And I think I just go with 1.5 inch square, I'm pretty sure. And then I just glue them to the white triangle and then cut off the excess. And I used copy paper just because it was thin, and I didn't want it to be too bulky and waste my white cardstock since I was just covering it up. So, yep, I am just cutting along there. Didn't realize I left so much of this in there. I did add a layer of clear gesso to my background. I wanted to do a little bit of mixed media behind the trees, although I wasn't quite sure what I was going to use. And I don't actually end up using all of these squares. My plan was to cover all of my trees or make all of my trees with the squares, but I realized that it was just going to look too similar. So there is one of my little triangles. I'm just going to cover it with some adhesive, and I do have to go back and add some more glue on the edges. But this was just to get it started. And I was trying to figure out whether I was just going to make it go straight, but I do it at an angle. And there I'm just taking my clear ruler just to start some lines so I make sure I get them straight. So it's pretty self-explanatory. I just start laying the squares down. And then once I get some of them laid down, the bulk of it, I do cut off the excess and use some of the smaller pieces to fill in the edges. Again, because I was Didn't know how many squares I needed to cut, although then I changed up the pattern on my other tree, so it didn't really much matter. But the kit was really beautiful. I really enjoyed some of the Heidi Swap pattern papers. There weren't any embellishments for her collection in this kit, but it was just a nice mix of patterns along with the simple stories. And I really like that Christmas collection. It's I thought about getting it, but I have so much Christmas stuff from previous years. I did not buy any extra Christmas collections this year other than this kit that I received from my creative scrapbook. I did manage to get 5 layouts done with this kit, although I only recorded 3 videos for this month, but it was really fun to work with. So, wow, I did leave a lot of this in here, didn't I? There's not too much explanation needed, but you get the gist of it. So, I think at some point here soon I'm going to cut off the excess, and I really like the buffalo check, the red plaid and the black and white plaid. That seems to be everywhere this season. It's not colors that I usually have worked with, but I've seen it everywhere, like in paper crafting and in home decor. A lot of that black and white buffalo check everywhere. Maybe it's been popular in previous years, but I guess I've never really noticed it until this year. So once I get all my trees done, they actually turn out quite large. So I end up having to tuck my photo in and under, if that makes sense. So I've got lots of little bits and pieces, and I found it really hard to even throw away some of these scraps just because I love some of these pattern papers so much. And you'll see on one of my other layouts that I do something similar with ornaments, but there you go. So that first one that's in the front is the one I started with, and then that larger one I just did different strips. Some of it was leftover scraps from other layouts, and some of them were branding strips. And then that tree on the left is also strips. And again, I had a lot of scraps from, this wasn't the first layout that I created with the kit, just the first one that I recorded. So I had some scraps left over, and I am taking some fun foam and popping the tree in the front up, and then my photo is going to tuck in underneath of that. So that's Persephone, and she is holding her 2 little kitties, and she looks really pretty. The picture looks really pretty. So that is how my layout ends up for the most part. And then I do add some embellishments, but not a lot, because I felt like there was already so much pattern going on. Now, you'll see that one tree, I didn't cover the entire thing because I knew my photo was going to cover it up, and it just seemed like a waste of time to go through and cover it with pattern paper if I was going to cover it up. But because there was so much pattern, that's why I decided to go with a neutral background. I like the wood grain. I think it was a nice combination. So this stencil was from my stash. It is from Paige Evans. It was one of the first stencils that she offered based on her cut files. And I am taking some Nuvo glitter paste. I've been wanting to use this for a while, and I chose the blue just because there is some blue in this collection and it matches really well, and I thought it would be a nice pop of color in the background off of the wood grain. So I'm just taking my Nuvo spatula, the tongue-tied. I really like that rubber spatula. It's easy to clean. So I just put my stencil down very carefully so I don't smush the first set of stars. But I like the stencil because it has lots of different sizes, although the really tiny ones, they aren't really clean, but you can't really tell for the most part. And some of them just look like dots, and that's okay too. It's almost like snow, if snow were blue. But you understand what I mean. Just make sure you rinse off your spatula and your stencil pretty quick, because the stuff will dry on it and be very difficult to get off. But I really like working with that glitter paste. It is nice and smooth. And so now it is dry, mostly dry. I was a little impatient, but I wanted it just to peek out from behind my trees. So you can see some of that blue in the pattern paper. So that's why I pulled from there. And so at this point, I was really struggling with what embellishments to use. I knew I needed to add a title and something, but I didn't want to cover up my trees, and I thought it would get too busy if I added a bunch. So there was a whole pack of these flowers. I guess they're poinsettias, some with leaves, and these wreaths. And so I tucked a couple in, and I cut out my own stars and painted them with some gold shimmers. And that was it. These are the finished photos. I did take a sparkle marker and outline my trees just to give it a little bit more dimension, but super simple and easy. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye.